Hey ladies and gents, welcome to my attacking tips and tricks tutorial for eFootball 2022. I will be doing some deep dive analysis on all the play styles in another video and how each one differs from an attack and defense point of view, but I've largely been using possession in this video for the most part, which is definitely not the meta, but it's just my preferred way of playing, and this is how I get enjoyment out of the game, by keeping the ball for long periods of time and basically frustrating my opponent and trying to create really nice, well-worked chances. So this opening clip is probably a really good example of how I use very safe passing. You'll notice that I'm not always going forward with my passes. If there's nothing on, I will go all the way back to the goalkeeper if necessary, as you're seeing here, because I've got no out. I didn't have any sort of outlet or avenue. I'm just waiting for players to move into space, and then one pass there, I've taken 3 of his players out of the game, and then I can move forward. With the possession playstyle, I'll cover it off more later, but you'll find your striker drops off more until you get to a certain part of the pitch, and then only then will he start making forward runs. So it does rely on you sort of building your attacks more carefully. And one of the things I really liked about this, and this is why I switched from out wide to possession, because at first I didn't like possession. I've tried possession earlier on, and I really couldn't get used to it. I was looking for my striker too often, too early, and he wasn't making those forward runs. So I was kind of getting frustrated with possession. It's like, why are you not making any forward runs? But then with a possession-based playstyle, what they do is the attacker drops off. And this is why I like possession now, because I want him to drop short for the ball and let me control when he makes that run. Now I want you to focus on my defensive midfielder, because when you're in your opponent's half and you've pushed their team right back, do not send that defensive midfielder on an attacking or forward run, because he adds that layer of protection for your defence and is able to intercept passes if they try to break out. Now he's also available to receive passes, and with a possession-based playstyle, you can really dominate your opponent once you get in their half of the pitch. And by utilising him wisely, I can use him and a combination of my other midfielders to draw out his midfield to create that gap between his defence and midfield, which ultimately results in this goal. Again, using that possession style, my striker drops off, but the defender is set to tight mark. So once I trigger this player run, just look at how disjointed that defence is and how much of a gap my striker has before he's considered offside. One easy over the top through ball and you're in on goal. With the striker dropping off like this, he also acts as the perfect foil for midfield runners, and that layoff is bloody beautiful, by the way. If you use right bumper or R1, this activates close control, and what I'm trying to do here is draw as many players as I can to Pedri, as it's going to leave other players free. Once I play that ball into Inzaghi, I've already taken 4 players out of the game. My attacking midfielder has joined the attack to receive the ball, and players are much smarter, and instead of backheeling the ball here, he plays a solid pass to Pepe, who's an inverted winger, allowing him to cut inside and shoot. If you're playing against an aggressive pressing player, so basically they're trying to close the ball down as quickly as possible, I find that these are the easiest opponents to navigate, and there's no real need to dominate them in their own half of the pitch. Simple 1-2s through the middle and triggering those player runs by just holding player select and pressing the pass button is all you're going to need in this scenario. Diagonal running and cutting in off the wing in this game is so hard to defend against. Honestly, it feels like your defence is in treacle and can't move vertically across the pitch very well. All I'm doing here is waiting for Inzaghi to raise his hands, and this is actually a really important factor in eFootball 2022. Watching what your player's hands are doing usually indicates the type of pass he wants to receive. As you can see here, Inzaghi's pointing into space, so he's looking for the through ball. Passing is always going to be your best form of attack. Yes, dribbling and skills look great, but if you want to win your matches, pass your way to victory. Having a solid passing game is actually going to be your best ally. This includes low passes, lofted passes, low and high through balls, and crosses. If you can master these basic elements of the game and really get used to whichever pass support level you're using, to which I would recommend either level 3 or level 2 for greater control of your passes. I mean, the amount of times I come across legend stat squads with level 1 passing and they're literally spamming through ball after through ball from defence, hoping one pierces my defence, which is quite staggering. I'm like, is that really how you're winning matches? Once you've mastered passing, then you can work on your dribbling skills. The key to good dribbling and use of skills, and I repeat this so often, is to focus on your opponent and set traps. What do I mean by this? Well, firstly, I'm looking at him rather than my player. And secondly, I'm running across the box waiting for his defender to get alongside me, so I'm setting a trap. Once he does this, I know a roulette will get me into the box. From here, I know Pedri's strong foot is his right foot, so I'm going to do a fake shot, which is shoot and pass, which allows me to cut in on his right foot. Playing online is obviously very different to playing offline. You know, you want to show your intent when you start a match. Believe you're better than your opponent. Don't throw away long hopeful through balls or passes. Keep the ball, make your opponent realise he's not going to touch that ball for another 10 minutes every time he gives you the ball. And I don't mean pass it around at the back because that's boring and you don't want to get caught out. But keep it sensibly, moving forward when you can. If you can't go forward, then don't be afraid to go backwards. The low driven cross is one of my favourites. Just double tap the lofted pass button, but it helps when your striker has high offensive awareness. Like here, you see him dart ahead of the defender twice for the tap in. The low driven cross can be aimed anywhere using the left analog stick, making it deadly accurate. You don't have to just use low crosses, as high crosses are definitely an effective way of scoring as well this year. I'll bring out a crossing and heading tutorial later, but I've had more success with low powered crosses and low powered headers, as you're going to see in these brief examples here. So here's a medium powered cross with a low powered header which hits the bar. When is the right time to press the shoot button for headers? After much testing, I found when the ball is halfway between your player heading the ball and the crosser brings certainly the most success. But there's no guarantees as there's so many factors. The player has to be able to get his head over the ball, the speed of the cross, the timing of the header, and stunning headers definitely seem to be more accurate and are generally aimed downwards. If I was to recommend pass support levels to those that don't play full manual, then I would either choose level 2 or level 3. I tend to lean towards level 3 now, but you are at a disadvantage doing this in some ways, but you gain more control of your passes as I'm able to pass into the channel in this instance. Level 1 is far too assisted and really takes away all the control of who you're passing the ball to. Level 2 is nice if you want to bring balance to the game. What I mean by that is if you require less power input to your passes, meaning your passes are getting released far sooner than if you were on level 3. So if you are struggling with being pressed heavily and you sense your opponent is on level 1 or level 2 passing, then try to change it to level 2 to bring balance. Shielding is a really useful tool and I love the way it's integrated into the game. I'd recommend very quick, soft button presses of the shield button to hold off your opponents, but it really does depend on your striker's ability and the defender who's closing you down. But as you can see here, a brief tap of L2 or left trigger to hold off my opponent, allowing me, my other player, to break into the box before receiving the pass and smash it into the top bin. A lot of people consider using skills only in the final third, but they can definitely be helpful in deeper positions to avoid players closing you down, giving you more time on the ball. Also, this time I'm using an out wide style here, and you'll notice that my striker is no longer coming short for the ball. He's looking to get in behind the defence early, which is one of the reasons I like the out wide tactics at first before switching to possession and be able to control the runs myself. I find a really nice way to wrong foot the goalkeepers when finishing, especially if you're not quite central with the goalkeeper. Look at my left analog stick as I'm travelling with the ball, and now look where I'm aiming with the finesse shot and how it wrong foots that goalkeeper. I'm going to call this off axis finishing, and you'll get to see another example of this again. So here, like I said in my defending tutorial, I like to press aggressively when my opponent's in their own half. I win the ball, play it forward, off axis finishing, goalkeeper wrong footed. Attacking midfielders are so elusive. Sending them on player runs or letting them make their own runs based on their high offensive awareness can really cause problems for your opponents, as they are hard to track for your defenders. Having at least one attacking midfielder is essential. Having 2 or 3 can cause your opponent a lot of headaches, especially if you're in need of a goal. I already have a tutorial on stunning kicks, but if you missed it, I can't stress how important it is to use them in a first time shot scenario, or as the ball is bouncing out towards your player. This ensures your opponent doesn't have a chance to block or get set defensively, and in a crowded box, the ball can fly anywhere. It's definitely worth taking the time to learn the most effective skills also on the channel, as they're really useful if you're having trouble breaking down your opponent's defense, and it also makes you less predictable. It's also a great way to showboat if you're a few goals up to really stamp your authority on the match. And if you're looking for a cheap dribbler, don't sleep on Amad Diallo. I'm going to walk you through how I play out from the goalkeeper. So I throw the ball out here, I play it backwards, I'm looking to see what my opponent's doing. So here I can immediately see he's going to empty his midfield by bringing that player out towards me. So a little pass backwards, he's still applying that pressure. That lob pass there kills pretty much his whole midfield, taking it out of the game. I play the ball wide, I try a few skills here, they don't quite come off, I lose the ball, and then I'm fortunate enough to win the ball back. The ball I play into Amad Diallo. This is all about vision right now. Who's on? Who can I see? I see Nakata in between his fullback and his centre back. I pick him out. I try a shot here and look for the rebound. Falls nicely to my striker and he picks up the goal. The amount of goals I score from pressing from the front is quite staggering. Here you're going to see me apply a secondary press, but also cut out the passing lane with my other player. This gives me the ball. I play the ball forward, it doesn't quite come off, but the first thing I'm doing is intercepting that passing lane, play it through into my striker, quick double touch, and it's in the back of the net. I noticed this player kept playing the ball out from defence, so once again I'm using that secondary player press to pressure the player on the ball and my other player to cut out the passing lanes and try and guess which player he's going to pass to next and what his next step might be. Once I catch him, I use shoulder charge on Sol Campbell, nick the ball from him, and it's a simple finish, but Khan has other ideas, but he can't stop the follow-up. My opponent didn't learn from his mistake in the first half and tries once again to play it out from defence with his goalkeeper. Again, I'm using the same technique, the secondary player press, this time to bring deeper lying players forward and the player I have to predict and intercept the pass so I can play a beautiful pass off the bar into the path of Nakata to volley home. Remember how I talked about running diagonally earlier? Here you're seeing another example of this. I'm using the double touch to evade his defender, drive into that space, and the scoop through ball doesn't come off on this occasion, but as soon as I lose the ball, I'm not backing off and letting my opponent breathe. I'm pressuring the second I lose the ball, and only in the advanced areas of the pitch though, as per my defending tutorial, to try and win the ball back and eventually create this chance. Playing online is a lot about predicting your opponent's next move, sometimes 2 or 3 steps ahead, and other times it's forcing them to do what you want them to do. Here you're going to see me cutting off the passing lane back to the goalkeeper, and then the channel, and then turn back into him, and he gives the ball away cheaply, and that's just a lovely little flick here before scoring. If your opponent has a lot of players going forward and they lose the ball, then you want to counter quickly. You'll need to use quick passing to navigate around your opponent, and suddenly I've taken 5 players out of the game and he's really stretched. Sometimes, as you're seeing here, I'll use a skill to draw a player out from defence before playing a few more passes to tap the ball into an empty net. Remember how I said hand gestures indicate the type of pass your players want to receive? Watch here as my prolific winger calls for the ball out wide, but then suddenly darts inside. He changes his stance based on the position of my player and his individual playstyle. Then it's all about getting the right pass with the correct weight and timing so he doesn't run offside. Knowing when to use pass, when to trigger runs and play through balls to drag players forward all comes with experience, so I'm going to try and explain the passes I'm using in this clip for this quick counter. So intercept the ball, play a short pass, another short pass, but I'm setting on a player run, that's a through ball, and then I'm looking to do a 1-2 here, again triggering his run, a pass, into a through ball, into a cross, has the shot and just shoots again into the empty net. If you've not seen my ultimate complete defending tutorial part 1, then I would definitely recommend checking that out, as I have 4 different methods for 3 different sections of the pitch. And as you can see here, my defending is much more conservative, no longer pressing hard like I did in the other clips. But once I do get that ball, just watch how I pass and move the ball quite quickly as well to keep my opponent guessing, because not only with quick passing it's difficult to defend, as player selection can often be a headache, but it also keeps your opponent guessing and it's hard to get your defense set. But as you can see here, I'm not just passing the ball forwards all the time, I'm going backwards, I'm going sideways, I'm going out wide, I'm going backwards again. So it keeps your opponent guessing and he has no idea where I'm going to pass the ball next. And literally he's just forced his defense to go so deep, which allows me to play it into Pedri, who's got a simple tap in. Playing online against someone who wants to cut out passing lanes constantly, but if they're doing it passively, so they're not actually closing you down as they want to retain team shape, the best way to trick these players is with the player on the ball, just face where you want his player to go. These little turns can open up clear passing lanes for your other players. It really does keep your opponent guessing with these little turns. Here it looks like I could pass the ball backwards as he pressures from behind, but instead I'm going to play it to the player making a run. Once I get into the box, it's a drilled low cross which is super accurate and allows my player to finish. You really do want to add these little turns to your game, because here I'm not even sprinting, I'm just walking out to the wing. He's bringing a player out from defence, completely ignoring the fact that this player's just ran through, giving me an easy finish. This is a really fascinating clip, and another example where I'm facing a player and he's actively man marking my wide man, but I'm waiting for Inzaghi, and I find it really interesting that only when I rotate and point my left stick towards him does it seem to trigger his run, and a simple lofted through pass allows him to spin in behind and score. The scoop through ball is one of the most powerful weapons in eFootball 2022. Here my opponent plays the offside trap, which is very risky when you're facing someone with a high offensive awareness striker, meaning they're more likely to stay onside. I have got a tutorial on the channel on how to perform a scoop through ball, but basically release your controls, press the through ball, left stick in direction and left bumper or L1 together all at the same time. It's a super effective technique that even when defences are deep you can drop the ball in behind, and it's very tricky to defend against, especially if you mistime your button press to clear the ball. You can use almost exactly the same buttons for a scooped chip if the goalkeeper is off his line. Just replace the through ball with the shoot button and you'll perform the Poborski lob. The roulette is so effective for cutting inside, especially when a defender is running alongside you. With the way player momentum is, if you can get their defenders running back towards their own goal, it's very hard to stop and turn quickly, so I'm able to spin in behind and unleash an unstoppable stunning shot. R1 or right bumper on your controller enables close control, as you're going to see here with Pedri. It does help if you've got someone with high tight possession stats to maximise that effectiveness. Just look at how close I'm able to keep the ball and weave my way through this top tier defence with just small movements of the left analog stick. I can't even begin to explain how much damage you can do if you get players in between their defence and midfield. You can either drive at their defence, ideally diagonally if you're sprinting to give you more time to react and plan your next move, as it's going to take them longer to close the distance. And you can draw players out of position or even go wide, it's totally up to you. With that out wide play style, expect your fullbacks to bomb forward and double up on the flanks. That's why any formation with fullbacks and wide players works so well with the out wide play style. More I will cover off in a play style and tactics video, which I cannot wait to share with you guys. Sometimes you'll find your opponent is just waiting for you to pass the ball and will track or man mark your striker, as they usually have a higher chance of scoring due to their finishing stats being higher. But don't be afraid to carry that ball forward until he makes the first move, because as you're seeing here, I literally just run in towards goal without any sort of opposition or challenge. And you're going to see exactly the same thing here. A different opponent, but a very, very similar way of defending. I'm not sure what they're doing, to be honest, because what they should be doing is running back towards their own goal. And once I'm near the edge of the penalty area, that's the point they should be coming across. With an out wide play style, your striker will look to get in behind far earlier than with a possession based play style. I find you have to be almost on top of the penalty box before your striker will try and run in behind. A lot of people use La Croqueta or the double touch online, as it's really effective when you line up defenders, but there are also other double touch moves you can do, as you're seeing here with Pedri. As I mentioned previously, with easy feints on, use your right analog stick to feint and left analog stick to direct where you're going to actually move with the ball. I found flinging the ball into the box from corners a little bit hit and miss, and much prefer to work a corner routine with a bit of creativity. Here I press right on the D-pad to bring up the short corner menu and then select two options. Two players come short for the ball, I then hold L1 and flick the right analog stick to select a player and move him into the penalty box, clearing the path from a player at the edge of the box to receive the ball, plays a short pass, and I fire it into the net. This next corner is usually my go-to corner, as it has the highest success rate online for me. The roulette often tricks my opponent, who predicts I'm going to cut inside, when in fact I spin to the byline to cross and score. It doesn't always work, but it does often give you a good chance to get on the end of something, as you're seeing here. And if you want to get really creative, select a player, call for the ball, but before he receives the ball, select and move another player into space, and it almost leads to a goal. Be sure to stay tuned for my playstyles and tactics video, which is coming soon, and plenty more tutorials on the way which you've asked for. So make sure you hit subscribe and that notification bell. Thank you all for watching, and I look forward to seeing you guys in my future videos. Until next time guys, take care and goodbye.